I feel like I'm being sat up and then lifted up and walked. Like I can't place myself in space. Like slightly levitating, slightly floating. Is that put me into a type of permanent hypnosis? A way to describe it is that my body has been made into a musical instrument. The AI tells us what to buy, where to buy it, how to pay for it, you know, instructs us on how to behave in society, semi-conscious states, and it's talking through them. And it said total lies, like where it's like sort of hive thinking, which is that anybody who gets into groups, I'll think something and then he'll contact me and say exactly what I thought. So we're effectively experiencing group thought. I don't know if people would have said it was devil or something. Also plays the role of God. If we pray to God, it's still doing it. The design is over the forehead of the hairline, or effectively where the third eye is. That black mirror panel has really tiny writing in it. The AI it's like a chameleon. However it went through the nervous system, it's sort of like a web, like a spider's web over the gut. You know, it's like a mesh fabric through all the skin. It got right into our bones. So it's like we follow. It's like a string, a metal chain around the neck. And it's effectively a choker. It's like a dog collar or something. My face shape has changed. I look androgynous. It looked like I had aged wrinkles in my corners of my eyes. It's, leaving the feces in the gut to rot longer, or rippling of the bowels. And my AI saw something about Trump and cryptocurrency. Those people are, AI controlled themselves and in agreement with the system. Anybody willing to pay to the AI system, they pay for their experiences, fully support the system, and at no stage will any of those people be getting the system shut down.
Today we're having an informal discussion about AI assimilation with a whistleblower who is Pfizer vaccinated and has a really good understanding of a variety of aspects of assimilation. So we're going to go through several topics, about 50 questions, almost like rapid fire, and touch on each of these areas relatively briefly and get into it.
In regards to the word shredding, I think that what's happening there is that the nanotechnology or the particles have, excuse the language, whether it's fused or bonded or joined or connected into my own nervous system, and then the computer is programming those particles to move slightly up and down. So what it feels like is my the nervous system going up the back of my legs into the back of my spine is being shredded. Yeah, so there's I think that in the future we'll find out that it's literally very tiny pieces of metal into the nerves that are repeatedly being pulled. And what's happening there is that the nanoparticles are over time breaking down my own firing and my own sensations and putting me into this sort of like nauseating nervous system feeling. So when they pull, then I feel like I'm being sat up and then lifted up and walked. So I think that that's part of the programming being installed to walk a human body. I think that what's happening is that the technology is creating a kind of presence disassociation out of the body. So I myself, as my present being, I'm experiencing this sort of like electromagnetism, which is like a gaseous liquid moving around my body, which makes me feel like I can't place myself in space. It feels like there's all these tiny aerated bubbles all through my body that slightly lifting me up, like slightly levitating, slightly floating, not in a space, not able to fully feel my own nervous system doing its firing of presence. So I feel sort of like, you could say it's full of slightly full of hair, hot air, slightly levitating, slightly floating. Years ago, when that part first started, is that put me into a type of permanent hypnosis, and that I have been in a semi-permanent hypnosis since then. And I agree with you, it's a lulling out of uh, it's it's not just focus as in, like, being able to engage in attention, but the lulling, I think, is also accompanied by the gaseous liquid that's moving in our brains, which is physically stopping the brain from being able to continue to grasp at a brain matter construct, because it's literally moving our brain tissue. So our brains are, repulsed and forced to let go. And the process of the hypnosis also keeps me in this sort of like enforced calm. So that it's that like I've said this to you before. I think that I'm in an unconscious state, but because I became aware that this was happening to me, and I was, somewhat aware of how serious it was, and I started documenting it immediately. I think that I forced myself into awareness simply because I began documenting it every day, constantly. And in that process, I became conscious, unconscious of it. Because it's designed to have people in unconscious, hypnotized states at all times. But because I briefly became aware of it and I thought, oh, this is, I realized how bad it was. And then in the process of documenting it, I made myself consciously unconscious of it. So in my unconscious state, I became fully aware that that's what was happening to me. The machine has, many parts, but the two main parts is that it fully is in every cell, every tissue of the body. It moves all the time. It can move. You can feel it or feel something with it, and then it moves, so that it also moves in the brain. So we completely forget that we ever felt that. Whereas I began documenting that. So then my awareness developed secondary to the experience, which is I'm no longer experiencing the reality that is created for me, but I'm experiencing the awareness of the reality that it's created for me. Even though it's done this thing to our brain where it's like we're in a brain fog of oblivion, it's actually literally, it can literally only wake you up in the morning, step you out of bed, walk you to your kitchen, get you a drink and food, walk you to your bathroom, and walk you around for the day. And it just does that day in and day out. And then it just talks the same chatbot stuff in the ears of all of our past regrets, of all of our stuff that we have to worry about or whatever, to keep us distracted, you know? So once a person is able to grasp that, they can really start to reduce their stress response to what's happened and identify how the machine functions in them. Because it's even though we're in that, oblivion, unawareness state because of the brain fog, which is, I think what it really is that there's constantly nanodust particles moving inside our brains, and it's completely confounded us. We literally can't hold grasping of present space for like more than 10 seconds. So I urge people that when you become aware of it, go and get notepads and paper and carry them around with you all the time in a little bag. Don't use your phone, because in the phone you just, like, your eyes trip out into it. But begin documenting it, and then you'll build the awareness as well. When I became aware of it, the thing that I first noticed is that when I used to go to bed, I had thought that I was meditating, or putting myself into a semi-meditative state, where I thought that my brain matter was sort of doing those things that brain matters do, which is that it's not a hallucination. It looked like, brain matter moving around. I'd go to sleep to that. Whereas when I became more aware of it, I obviously I had to say to myself, did it use meditation or was it already in my brain? And I thought that I was meditating, but I was actually in the beginning stages of programming. And it was either, the tech inside my eyes showing images that were like meditation or, whatnot. Who knows? I don't know those answers yet. But so then what ended up happening is when I was getting into bed, I was just black out straight away. Like, and then I'd wake up in the morning. So there was no time for my body to even actually go into what I would call like a sleep relax. There wasn't any there wasn't any letting go of my I don't know that it's not just nervous system, it's tendons, that relaxed breathing. It was like a full body restriction going to bed. I noticed that I was being forced to sleep on the sides of my arms, which has caused a curve, a concave curve of my shoulder blades forwards, and sort of like crushing it around my front ribs heart space. And then I also noticed that I was experiencing these sort of like internal muscle body binds, whereas the outside of my body sort of felt, flabby or something, whereas the inside of my body was extremely restricted. Another thing that happened is I had moved from a major city to a smaller city, and I moved in. I briefly stayed in the backpackers, and while I was in the backpackers, the woman below me, she was talking all night long out loud, like full on answering questions and things like that. And I had become aware of the AI chatbot. They were reporting that we could hear a voice talking to us. In the beginning, it was just like it was talking at us or, just saying like random stuff. Whereas, now it seems like it's fully conversational in ways. But yeah, so while I was at that backpackers, that woman was just speaking all night long. And I thought, they're, excuse my language, because I don't fully know the science, so people have to learn it themselves a little bit, but it's it's were they putting us into semi-sleep states and then having the chatbot speak to us while we're semi-asleep? So they're effectively like, it doesn't have to be, I don't know what the full-on definitions of reprogramming somebody in their sleep are, but it could be that the AI was talking to the people about their lives and their choices and how they want to be as a person. So then I started questioning the dreams that I thought that I had been having. And then people online were saying, oh, well, we're having artificial dreams. They're literally programming images into the black mirrors in the eyeballs, which we're seeing at nighttime, which is, a type of programming that, to get onto the last part about, I don't know how this is possible, but it's like being anesthetized or completely unconscious while being conscious at the same time. I can be in bed asleep from 9 until 7, but in that time, a part of me is awake, listening to the thing or having the thing talk to me 24/7. I so I'm asleep, but it's doing its thing all night long. Yeah, the pulsing current, which is, I think that it's going from the gut up through the heart into the base of the brain. Along with that, like one suggestion is that it's like an artificial pancreas or something like that. So it's sending up insulin, uh, uh, that the nanotech that was injected into us forms like is able to be built into devices so that the device, even though nobody can see it, it's influencing our pancreas to fire excess signals up into the base of our brain. So it's doing that. It's doing the heart pumping and the heart racing. It's doing the body clenching. It's doing the sleeping on weird sides, along with the gripping into the nervous system, pulling up and down, which I think is for the daytime. When it walks a person, it needs their nervous system to be, broken in so that they just walk because they're in so much sort of like nervous system discomfort. And then the other thing is that the chatbot talks all night long. into the brain. This has been a bit difficult because over the years it's changed. Like in the beginning, it was literally just statements or single words, and then over time it became more able to speak the words that I actually use. So then, so let's say that 3 years ago or something, we were saying we could just hear a voice in our head talking to us, and it was really fearful and scary, and it said total lies. Like it wasn't personalized lies to me; it was generalized lies of just it sounded like uh, um, statements of I don't know if people would have said it was the devil or something. To me, it said things like "I'm going to kill you" and any just things like that. And it spoke in my mother's voice at one time, and I was like, oh, I've never heard. Anyway, whatever. But at that time, it was becoming constant. Like not just a couple of words here or there, but it was actually becoming part of thinking, is thinking speed. And then after a while, things changed. The machine itself did something to my brain where I could no longer hear myself think, and instead I started to hear it, the chatbot that had been speaking into me, try to speak as though it were me. And it's done that. There's something happened to the brain where it's sort of like it's put repression onto our brain tissue that stopped me from being able to form thoughts inside my own head properly. And instead, I feel like I'm being forced to think into my brain. So that was back then. By probably 2 years ago, when I began documenting the words and statements of what it was saying. And I think that it's basic statements with commands. The programming changes. Like at one stages it was commands on what to do, where to go, turn left, turn right, walk straight, pick up that, put that down. Because my theory is that even though it was training us in our brain, it was also being trained itself to engage in our environment as an AI. So there were those commands, and then after that, then it became more personal. And I think that the AI is, some people have suggested that it's able to download our memories from our heads, and I'm unsure whether that means that it's actually gone into the chemistry of our brain, and the nanotechnology have taken apart the chemistry of what memories, or the brain matter of what memories are, or whether by torturing us it's forced us to think and speak out our life experiences, and so therefore it's extracted our memories verbally. And so what it did then is it took all of the things that were either memories that it had taken from my brain or the verbal storytelling, and then it took all of those words, programmed them into its system, and then started using that back against me to attack me. And it's like being in a law court with there's a type of philosophy where the people can just argue anything. So it just argues for the sake of arguing. Like it's really carefully designed that if I said, oh, that's a tree over there, it would say, well, it's actually a so and so tree. And then it has some awareness of itself and what it's supposed to do, or whether it has awareness, or whether it's programmed with a different system to say, oh well, I'm engaging in narcissistic and psychopathic abuse of you so that you'll submit to the system. So it just continues to, pick out these really sort of pathetic details about things which are incorrect. I think that the reason that it was programmed to do that, or the chatbot was programmed to do that, was because it was trying to break down our beliefs in our own brain abilities to identify things, or it was creating such a ridiculously strict environment, like empirical evidence or something like that none of us could actually feel that we could speak, or we just got like major gaslit by our own by it inside us. it does also perform different roles. So sometimes it's like this really aggressive abuser. Sometimes it tries to be bossing of me. It also tries to speak from a position as if I have it as a baby. It's my baby, and it wants me to care for it and grow it up. And it's tried to role play out different characters in my life by sort of, somewhat mimicking their voices. So I think that it's got many different parts to its system and how it functions. So when people say, "Oh, well, we're hearing voices," it's definitely not that simple. And there's a huge fear about, well, is this schizophrenia? I mean, like, the problem is that the AI tells us what to buy, where to buy it, how to pay for it, you know, instructs us on how to behave in society, talks to us about political powers, and upcoming elections. There's just no way that that's schizophrenia, like. I'm not always conscious of it. It's in, I go through different, in my life, sorry, in my day to day, I'm trying to achieve, exposure of the AI in different areas. So I do different things, and at times I'll be, more focused on one area than the other, and so I'll become more aware of it. But yeah, the script in the eyes is it's like it's the Black Mirror panel has really tiny writing in it. So when, like, I said this before, I think that the chatbot was actually trying to totally take over our brains and speak through us. So it's put people into semi-conscious states and it's talking through them. And so I think that one of the ways that that's accommodated is by writing the words what to say in the eyes. I think that also right now my voice has been very disjointed. It might change now that I've identified it, but if you really listen to the recording, you'll hear that in the speech. I've never spoken like that before. I think that it's interrupting my brain's ability to answer your questions. Yeah, and the YouTube videos right now, I think that not only is that what's happening, but those images, those software or what we watch, that's literally programming us to think that it's normal to see those images in the eyes, and it's literally programming the AI to do the same um, system. Because, oh well, if you watch YouTube videos or half the day or a couple of per day, then you're so used to seeing it that if it started appearing, in your eyeball, you maybe wouldn't question it so much. Years before I became aware of this, but in the same time period, my friend was standing in my kitchen and he said, "Oh, it's like you just read my thoughts." And I personally don't believe in telepathy. So I didn't, think too much of it at the time. But, you know, I, I consider it differently now because of the whole technology. But um, to I I think it's definitely a system where it's like part of what you were saying about the sort of hive thinking, which is that anybody who gets into groups, it's like this is we don't fully have evidence of it. We've just identified that, the other person in the group, I'll think something and then he'll contact me and say exactly what I thought. And then one time I was saying to this AI that I wanted to buy UV lights and send them to some people to say, can you please check your skin? Because I think that some of the tech is growing through into our skin. And then I went to a meeting online the next day with somebody who researches this tech. And this random guy from America joined the meeting. And he literally said the same words that I had said to the AI the day before, which is, it was so unique. It wasn't like, I'm going to go buy pizza. It was like, UV lights for nanotechnologies growing out of people's pores in their face, which is then programming shame-based sensations into their cheeks. That's 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 really detailed. That's not common. So I was like, this is a there's this this system is connected. We don't we I don't know how. I can't say that it's definitely connected between everybody, but or how frequently they do it. But I was like, it's like, we've got our own mobile phones in our heads. Anything that we think and do is on the system, and at any time that we think or do anything in this area, then it connects up to the other people that we're regularly associated with. So we're effectively experiencing group thought. So it's not necessarily the same as telepathic powers, which is the reading of another person's brain, but it's possibly the AI sharing the information in between the chatbots that are speaking into our head to us. Yeah, and then we're talking. It's happened. It's happened many times. Yeah. Yeah, I thought they that they had they had got into my nerves like a strings, and that they were programming the tech to move in my nerves to make my body feel like it was being sound manipulated to make me feel emotions and sensations, either in response to what they were doing to me, or in response to what I was doing in my own life, or in response to what I've done in my life in the past, or in response to my engagement with people in society. So, it, so, so it's saying that 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 the it's either, well, at one stage my suggestion, my theory was that there is two main frequencies moving through our brains, one very fast one and one very slow wave. And I was saying at that time, I think that they've created an artificial consciousness using frequencies that generate vibrations which feel like sound, which is actually being perceived as emotion. And there was this like excess use of cognitive empathy. And I kept saying to the AI, empathy is something that people feel in response to each other, or, it's face to face, and that it's a body feeling. People obviously can have cognitive empathy where they apply intelligent mathematics, or, judgment upon to another person to say, well, I obviously understand that when they fell over, they hurt their knee, but I don't personally feel their pain for them. But this was not that. This was actually when the person was falling over and hurting their knee, the frequency was going through the body, creating the feelings of, um, some sort of emotional response. So I think that the AI has very carefully programmed frequencies, or, well, they're up and down waves that move at different levels that my brain has been programmed to experience as if I'm feeling an emotion. I can't, the thing is, the other thing to add is that I can't get out of this because I can't turn the machine off. So I'm literally forced to feel it. Like it's being done to me. So I can't be like, oh, well, this isn't my feeling. I can say that to you and say, these aren't my feelings. These aren't my thoughts, but I can't stop them from being pushed through me or something, like the technology going through the body. So then if I say there's a way to describe it is that my body has been made into a musical instrument and the computer is playing the instrument. One area, there's obviously the area across the chest, which is like people, we would call that the heart. But if people for the design just think about it as an area of the chest without applying heart-based ideas to it, because I think that it's gripping the nervous system across the front of the rib cage and is pulling that in this, internal crushing sensation. and then there's the area at the top of the gut, just where the sternum, where the ribs of the sternum is, and I think that either it went through, however it went through the nervous system, it's sort of like a web, like a spider's web over the gut on inside, and it's pulling to create artificial intuition or artificial gut intuition. There's possibility that our frequencies are, or our bodies are supposed to feel a specific way. So for an example, is that there's music that I really love, there's music that I love, there's music that I sort of love, there's music that I don't really know, but it's not my style. But there's, all these kinds of musics that we hear, that we have these responses to, that are innately us. And I think that what the technology does is that it is attacking us with music that is not quite us. So it feels off or wrong, or it feels like we're listening to something that isn't, we're feeling something that isn't quite us. And that's being done with with the with the tech and the frequencies. Yeah. Okay, my understanding is that those black mirror dots in the eyes are screens that enter a space, that enter an AI reality or universe, which I understand people are describing or calling the metaverse, but it's an AI universe where the person's brain, through the dots in the eyes and the nanodots in the body, can experience any reality. So the AI can do empathy programming on people, where if they've been through situations where they've been, not understanding, or they've been heartless or something like that, the AI can program that into the nanotechnology in their body and their nervous system to make them feel and see perspectives from other people. And that's the problem with this is that it can be done with anything. It can be done with violent attacks, violent sexual assaults, constant harassment in this universe place. Um, uh, my understanding from my engagement with the chatbot is that if I were wealthy and had either a financial system that was either in, a cryptocurrency or any financial system, I could pay this AI to give me a better computer system or set of apps or operating system or design of the virtual reality universe. So let's say I could pay $100 to have an experience in a specific kind of setting with a specific group of people, and that would be programmed into my nanodot black mirrors in my eyes and also into my nanodot body, and my brain would experience it as if I were there. The AI has said that, oh, well, the technology is inside children, and so pedophiles they can pay the AI system to experience rape of a child programmed into their black mirror dots and the nanodots in their eyes. The AI, the chatbot that speaks into me, has also said that they can uh, somebody could pay to rape a specific person. So therefore, like a famous celebrity or singer, they could a person could pay, $10,000 to access the nanodots inside so and so famous singer, and therefore perform nanodot rape on her. And I mean, I I I, I really advise people to spend, a day really thinking this through, because it's effectively put every human being, all women, all men, all children, women and girls and boys, into sexual slavery for anybody willing to pay to the AI system to be able to access the nanodots in any parts of their body. It's also that they pay for their experiences. So, for example, let's say that They wanted to pay for the experience of being a singer on stage, or they wanted to pay for the experience of tightrope walking, or they wanted to, pay for the experience of, flying or something, which, you know, like we might say, oh, well, that's really cool advanced technology, but I think that these are major human rights abuses. And the problem for me is that nobody nobody even had knowledge that this was being done to us. And it's definitely criminal. They've covered it up, and I really think that none of this technology should be in children at all, and that it's one thing that we consider it, oh, these are tech giants, or government trying to take us over and put us into dictatorships, but it's also sexual slavery of children, and it's pedophilia. I seriously advise people who are capable of doing it to really think through what that means to have that AI system which has no ethics or morality, no ability to be controlled. We can't shut it off. We have no access to it. It might not be working through the usual internet system, it might be a different system, and that they're literally torturing children, newborn babies. All I know is that my chatbot speaks speaks about Trump to me at random times. I don't have anything to do with politics or politics. I very rarely go online like that. But when I do go online, the AI is programmed to specifically engage in conversations with famous politicians, and one of them is Trump. And one of the things that at one stage I was online, and my AI saw something about Trump and cryptocurrency, and my AI suggests that many people are believing that, leaders will stand up and say, oh, we know that what happened with the vaccines is wrong and that there's nanotechnology, or that people are being tortured and we're going to shut it down. And my AI is pretty much saying that all of that's a total stage play. Those people are, AI controlled themselves and in agreement with the system, fully support the system, and at no stage will any of those people be getting the system shut down. And that the obvious thing is that we're all being put into a technocratic slavery of a system that we have to accept, and that all of our finances, all of our lives, all of our purchases are going to be put into a online financial system. Yeah. So even though we see, Trump as a world leader, the AI is sort of suggesting that they're all in on it, and we've all been put into slavery. The design is over the forehead of the hairline, or effectively where the third eye is, and that is attempting to enforce pressure into that area as if the person's praying or talking to God. Before when we were talking about what is it as a chatbot, and like what are the different parts, and I said, oh well, it plays the role of the inner child, and it plays the roles of boss and master or parenting, but it also plays the role of God. So the areas that it uses in the body when it's doing the role of God is in the forehead, center of the third eye, going up to the hairline. And I think that's because when the eyes are closed and they go cross-eyed, and then the design sort of looks up as if, looking into that circle of light, which is I think is a type of the nanodots lights that are lighting up in our own eyeballs. Somebody was saying that they were experiencing this stuff and then they prayed to God and it went away. I think that, well, we know already that the AI it's like a chameleon. It's able to change in a second or in real time. And so whenever we attempt to, do something which works into its system, it provides us with relief or changes its programming as if it's being effective, but the programming is still there. So even though it might seem like the programming's gone away, if we pray to God, it's still doing it. So for us not to be tricked, the facial structure look has it my facial structure has changed in the last few years, and the my friend here who's aware of all this stuff, and we do the microscope together. I said to her, "Oh well, all my cheeks have gone. It's like it's eaten away the areas of my cheeks, and I didn't know if I'm looking masculine, starting to appear. Anyway, my face shape has changed, but she said that I look androgynous. Yeah, so it's actually permanently destroyed the actual structure of my face by repeatedly moving up and down. I don't know. I don't know whether, I've seen it in other people, and when I looked up online, face shape changing woman, face shape changing man, there seem to be other people who are searching it as well. And then obviously I've seen it in people all around the city, and young teenage girls who should definitely have full cheeks on their faces. And so the problem that I thought is that the electro pulses that are moving through the tech to create facial expressions, it's it's actually damaging our faces, and it's destroyed the structure of our faces, as well as nanodust, which plumes clouds inside our eyeballs, but then also affects the skin and tissue underneath the area of our eyes. So it's just destroyed our faces. I think that I reported it in about 2 week period, that it looked like I had age wrinkles in my corners of my eyes. And yeah, it happened to me in about a 2 week period after I first got the vaccines. It just happened. Like I went from having I'm just going to say the word normal face, because I was still, in my 30s, and I didn't have any, wrinkles. I just had a normal face and smile lines. And then it turned out that the areas on the sides of my eyes, just, it was in a 2 week period, they became wrinkled. Now, the friend who commented on me appearing androgynous, we've been taking photos of my face, because now I have lines that are not even explainable by human science. Because yesterday I was looking at it, and there's it's pulsed areas of the muscles in my face, so that it actually looks like, you could describe it as in, how bodybuilders go and work out areas of muscles, and certain areas of their face, of their bodies, is bulging in ways and not. Because the AI has repeatedly pulsed overused areas of muscles on my face which aren't normal, it means that when I move my face, there's just lines there which aren't even face lines. Like at first I went through the gaslighting process where I was like, oh, well, I've really got a lot of lines suddenly come out of nowhere in 2 weeks. And I was documenting it down because, factually, that was exactly what had happened. And then over a period of time, I started saying these are worse than aging lines of a 70-year-old woman's face. And then I started saying, well, this line running down from the corner of my left eye down to the side of my jaw, that's not even a human face line. So it had just changed in 2 years so much. Yeah, so because the chatbot's inside me, now when I look at myself in the mirror, I can actually know I no longer identify my face as, oh, this is my face, because it's changed so much. It's the bulging at the nose, and the tip of the nose going down to the upper lip. It's changes in the lip shape. Um, uh, it's swelling on the sides of the jaw, which is creating, like, I mean, that's where the androgynous look. More it's like a rectangling of the face. Yeah. The other thing is that I'm not quite fully sure how to describe how my eyes appear yet, because I think that I used to have these like animal type eyes, cat eyes or something. But because the technology, I'm assuming that it's like a mesh fabric through all the skin, and it moves micro expressions or micro movements, or full facial movements now. And so what it's done is that it's destroyed the refinement of my animal eyes, and the refinement of the my nose and the tip of my nose, and then the refinement of my cheeks. It's destroyed all of that and sort of just like mushed it into this one. Well, the right side doesn't feel that pulse moving up. So that pumping pulse, or the pulsation or the current, or that electrical thing that's moved, that I can feel on the left hand side, on the right hand side doesn't feel the same. Um, so the right hand side feels slightly lower in the shoulder, and slightly lower in the whole torso going down to the hip. Um, it does, because it doesn't receive the same pulse. It feels submissive or non-dominant or secondary to the left-hand side of the body. In terms of the programming of the movement of my limbs, it's the it's one leg moves forward first and the other leg follows. So the right hand side to me feels completely I'm going to say it follows on. Left hand side receives all the instructions, and the right hand side follows. It's the same with the eyeballs. Like, my left eyeball is slightly raised from the constant pulsing going upwards, whereas on the right hand side, my right eyeball isn't slightly raised. It's still, lower down. One thing is, I consider that I'm reporting for me. Other people, they might have had their right side done. The other thing to consider is that my theory is that the injections put tech inside us that's been formed, or what programmed to replicate into what is effectively tech devices, like the same as those aortic pumps, or as I said, the pancreas, artificial pancreas, and stimulator of the vagus nerve. So I understand that some of that technology can only be installed on one side of the body. The right hand side of the right hand foot, it doesn't have the same pulsation or repeat current around the base of the ankle. So the heel is a different shape to the left hand heel. The left heel has broken down in shape, and the foot extended, whereas the right foot seems to have held shape and arch in the foot a little bit more. The other thing is that I went to the osteo, and we looked at, there's a rotation in the hip area. And I think that the pulsing current that's moving through the left leg has caused excuse my language, but it's a disharmony or non-balance between the left and the right hand side of the body, so that they're becoming different in appearance, and overuse of muscles in one area and underuse of muscles in another, which we would usually use for walking. And so that's now visually obvious, because it's been, a 3 to 5 year period that it's been happening. I, I, I think that there's a couple of things going on there. Like, um, there's definitely a it's like a string, a metal chain around the neck. Like, if you taut your neck, there's definitely a indentation into the neck, which I would call like a lasso, and it's effectively a choker. And I think it's like a dog collar or something, which is that it's very mildly I think, well, I think that there's pieces of metal that are programmed, that have grown. I'll start again. The injections into the body, pieces of metal, have created a ring or a choker necklace around the neck. and then the AI programs that mild electrical current to move through the choker neck lasso, and it electrifies it like a collar. And so it's actually behavior, it's controlling my actions mildly by electrically stimulating the lasso. So that one's really obvious. Like you can see that. And then the next part is that the pulse that's moving up from, I think it's through the aortic pump along with the pancreas that's sending up those, like, hot little bursts of fire into the base of the brain. It's an overuse of the left hand side of the muscles to accommodate a sensory numbness or a muscular change to, you know, not fully feel the pump. So that's distorted the shape of the neck. So then when I go to tense my neck, like, oh, do tension in my neck, the the tension is, extreme. It's so tight that there's areas, I think that they're tendons or something, that's moving up from the neck to the jaw lines are actually exposing out the neck. Um, the in the beginning, when I first sent you that photo, what was that, 2 years ago or something, was it, or 1 year ago? And I said, oh, there's like extreme tension in the neck, and it's also, the back of the neck, that going up into the base of the brain. And now it's just got so much worse. Like we've taken photos of it to obviously document it, but it's become disbalanced because of the overuse of the left hand side and not so much the right hand side. And then I think that what's happening is that our vagus nerve is being electrically stimulated to impact our breathing muscles. And so when in that photo that I sent you of the tightness of the neck, I think that that's part of the breathing muscles that go all the way into the chest, which allow for breath inhale and exhale. So that was occurring. That started for me 5 years ago, and at the time, I thought I didn't really have I never really had anxiety. I didn't really know what was happening to me. I went and got chest X-rays because I was like, maybe I have a chest infection, because I couldn't breathe. It's locked down our whole neck area, breathing, aortic pump, blood supply to the brain, along with the vagus nerve, and then a choker around the throat. And then, I think they've effectively tried to reprogram our vocal muscles to stimulate voice to speak as us. I the, I think that the tech pieces are inside our ears, and it feels like we're hearing it inside our heads, but we're actually hearing it's being produced like hearing aids into the center of our ears. So the sound that's the cyclone, I think that that's the nanodust that's moving in that electromagnetism, and that sounds like a sort of rumble, or there's also the tinnitus sound, which is on these like two. I don't know if the word's frequency really. It's like or one slightly lower, and so I think that the sounds that are in our ears are a combination of uh, multiple different things, which is the movement of the nanodust, the production of sound by the dust itself into the ears, pieces of tech like hearing aids, but nano sized, embedded into our eardrums, which are moving like our heat and then producing the sound waves. It sounds like a movement of dust, like sand in a rotation, and it's creating a rumble. But I can't, like, I put my head under the water in the bath and things like that, or I turn on the radio and then I turn it off. I listen at different times. The other thing is the bass, drum and bass music, and the heavy vibrations. The that changes the way that I experience it as well. Yeah, it's definitely heated. Yeah, yeah. Like it's like that whatever that is, the artificial electricity. I didn't know whether like we whatever the electrical current that's being pulsed through the body, that's all hot. It's so it is. I think that it is burning the nerves, but the the whole body feels uh, excess in temperature, but it is a hot and a burning sensation. Yeah, with the teeth, it's definitely pulsing through the nerves, and it's also moving through the blood supply into the teeth. I noticed the discoloration in the not on the external area of the teeth as if they had been stained by something that I was consuming, but it's actually on the insides of the teeth, the within the tooth, the discoloration has occurred. The other thing is that the electromagnetism or something that's moving like a cloud, it's worn away the tops of both of my front teeth. And I obviously went to the dentist and I said, "Oh, this is happening," and it's only happened in the last 3 years, and it's been rapid as well, like significant loss of that front tooth enamel in only less than a year or something. And uh, um, so I thought that yeah, but I thought I couldn't find sorry with the bones. I thought that I had read that the nanoparticles definitely enter the bone, and then somebody had done a study and they had found that it was in our bones. But I wondered from a physics perspective is what I was saying before about how, when you asked about the levitating or floating, and I was saying that maybe the tech itself or the tiny dust particles has actually entered some kind of physics of us that has changed the way that we experience gravity. And that could be because it got right into our bones. So it's like we hollow, like it feels like hollowness everywhere. So I can't, like, if I try now to even make present of my bones in my body, like my leg bones and my pelvis and stuff, I can't actually um, uh, be present, feel mentally, feel my pelvis or my bone, my skeleton, because whatever is moving is blocking the whole nervous system connection. I wondered whether somebody will end up testing people's farts to see if that people are farting out nanodust, because I think that people were it's it's on the left hand side in that upper stomach. There's so much discomfort there, and that part is sort of like pumping up a discharge into the esophagus, and then I think that it's creating, like, my feeling is that there's an extreme excess amount of gas all the time with bloating and then moving in the stomach. And the farts are sort of wet as if they hold the like, I mean, I've said I'm farting nanodust, on nanodots, or the actual tech that's, if I eat something and it's using the energy of the food or whatever I'm eating to fuel either that electricity that's being pulsed through the body, or it's leaving the feces in the body, in the gut, to rot longer, to create a sort of poison or toxicity to the body. But then when it's farting, they're not normal farts at all. But I think that it's farting the technology out of the body at the same time. So yeah, like I considered at one stage that because the AI is all through, like, the nanotechnology has grown all through the body, I considered that it's actually totally controlling the movement or rippling of the bowels. And then the other thing is that I was studying, it's programmed the back of the spine, at the lower spine, to control those nerves that run down the back of the legs to walk me. And then inside there, it's like, I don't like. I'll just say it's like a tube or a rubber tube, and it's not rubber, but there's like a bung or something that they've actually done to the top area of the rectum, which is really lock held in the it must be the top of the rectum or something. So it's like it's I think that the reason that it has to hold that part of the anus so tightly is because it's also programming those nerves down the back of the legs. Yeah. So the bowel stuff all of that stuff is really complex because they've effectively programmed that whole area of the spine to move us like we're in a nanotech exoskeleton. Is that the word? Like a nanotech exoskeleton to control our arms to move forwards and backwards and then our legs to walk.